Welcome back to Hi Guys, BDR here, and I'm back with another AQ Worlds video. Now, today's video is going to be basically the breakdown of the King's Echo class. We finally got the name of the 17th birthday class. It is going to be called King's Echo. Now, the long-awaited good themed endgame class is here on October 17th, next week. Head to Tamina Temple and begin the journey to unlock the King's Echo class. Okay, here's the skills. Now, how to unlock the class. Now, the requirements are you have to be at least level 80, you have to complete the Cold Thunder Saga, and, rank 10 in the Good and Swordhaven factions, and have the Alden's Liberation armor. Alright, so now the details about the class. Now, this class is a magical-based damage dealer that could also take a number of hits. The skills incorporate his sword, mace, lightning, barrier, and even dragon, with gameplay revolving around spending your mana to charge up your sword for more damage or activate your barrier to protect against damage. Recommended enhancement, wizard. Stat model, power caster. Mana regen, the King's Echo fully restores their mana upon summoning Korvac. Alright? Now then, this is, the auto attack, Dragon Sword, max targets 1, 55 to 715% magical as physical, medium range, no mana cost, 2.5-second cooldown. Damage is dealt based on spell power and energy infusion. While it may seem like a standard auto attack, once charged up, it becomes one of your highest damaging skills. Now then, your rank 1 skill, Liberation Mace. Single target, medium range, no mana cost, 3 seconds. Deals damage based on your spell power and applies censure, reducing your target's damage resistance, crit, and dodge by 20% for 10 seconds. While Royal Resolve is active, applies Overthrown, reducing your target's outgoing damage by 8% for 10 seconds, stacks to 4. So we're already looking at, this is like a major debuffing skill right here, definitely good. For boss fights right there, being able to do all 3 damage resistance, crit chance, and dodge by 20%. And also if Overthrown is active, it can also as a stackable debuff as well. So far so good. Alright. Then we have Bolt of Authority, rank 2, single target, infinite range, 25 mana, 3 seconds. Channel a bolt of electricity through your sword, leaving behind residual energy, which stacks to 8 in the last 10 seconds. The more you use the skill, the stronger your auto attack ultimately becomes. Just to, keep an eye on your mana. Okay. Then next we have King Shield. 50 mana cost for 5-second cooldown. Create a damage nullifying barrier guarding most forms of damage for 2 seconds and applying focus. So this class has its own taunt as well, which is pretty good. Which forces, these effects cannot occur again until Korvac is used. Your rank 5 skill also applies Royal Resolve, increase your damage resistance by 50% while dealing an HOT for 6 seconds. It can also, upon using the skill, you become near invincible for 2 seconds, reducing most instances of damage to 0 while also taunting your target. As this effect is very powerful, it cannot be repeatedly used while on its cooldown, but you can still use the skill to get a hefty defense buff in HOT. So it's like, well, okay, this class has debuffs and its own taunt. It's always nice. Classes with their own taunt is always good. Then we have the rank 5 skill Korvac. Rank 5, single target, infinite range, negative 200 mana, 16-second cooldown. Alright, call upon your dragon to unleash a powerful energy blast, dealing unavoidable critical damage based on your missing mana and refilling it. The blast also infuses all residual energy into your dragon sword for 20 seconds, increasing its damage based on the number of stacks, replacing any stacks that are currently infused. Alright, Korvac activates your residual energy stacks, infusing your auto attack would greatly increase damage for a period of time. Additionally, using Korvac causes your next apply to Kin Shield to apply its, its taunting and its damage negation, basically. Alright, your passives. Royal Armor, endurance increased by 200% and physical resistance by 20%. Not gonna lie, 200% endurance, this class is probably gonna have It's probably gonna have like near 3k HP if you put on full forge. That's pretty cool. Energy attuned. Haste and critical chance increased by 25%. Okay, this is crit. And the rank 10 passive, My Four Dearest. Mana cost reduced by 20%, and hit chance, outgoing magic damage, and healing power increased by 10%. Is there any conclusion? Alright, the King's Echo is a force on the battlefield, much like Alcyon himself. Whether you find a focus on an offensive approach through charging your sword or a defensive one with your barrier or a balance of both, you'll find you're able to adapt to a variety of situations and take on a slew of powerful foes. So, based on paper, since this is paper, this class seems all right. I think the game style of this class is that you want to basically use your two, three, stuff like that. Just spam these two. You have when you have no mana, then Korvac, King Shield. If you're soloing a boss, you're only probably gonna use the King Shield. We need protection. And this class, since it has its own taunt, it could probably be useful. It could probably be the DPS in like a handful of ultra bosses since it has its own taunt as well. So there's probably no need to activate, the Scroll of Enrage in your potions. You can also have potions as well. So pretty much the gameplay of this class is like, use up mana, Korvac. If you need protection, you know, King Shield right there. You can also get a taunt. Just like use up your mana, and then, just spam your nuke, get that Korvac nuke going, and then, reapply your King Shield. And then just, spam whatchamacallit, these two right here, the Liberation Mace and Bolt of Authority. So your auto attack could really look good. Alright then. So far it seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. It has a lot of uses there and there. A class of its own self-taunt is pretty good. Alright then. Now let's go over, these requirements. Alright, so here's your prepping guide for the King's Echo class. Now first, they say that you have to be level 80. This is an endgame class. And you're probably wondering how do I, grind, XP, for those who are trying to get to level 80. Well, you could join Ice Storm Under, make sure you have, your XP stuff on. Make sure you have your XP boost, wait until there's like a server XP boost. Next Friday, the 17th, there's going to be a triple, XP rep, next week. So definitely watch out for that. And whatchamacallit, yeah. And make sure you have like rep XP stuff on. And yeah, just kill these monsters right here. Should be pretty easy, especially with a full lobby. Instantly take them out in seconds. This is kind of like, probably the best non-ultra method to get XP. Alright, let's move on to the next requirement. Alright, another requirement is that you have to complete the Cold Thunder Saga. Cold Thunder and Rumbling Saga. If you haven't started, it just starts with the Termina Temple. You just talk to Cease here, Tara, whatnot. Go across. There's going to be different, quests all around, which can also give you, good reputation, which is, definitely good later. So yeah, it starts with Termina Temple, then Ballymore, and then Low Shrine, and then all the way to the Queen Iona fight. As you see right here, I've already completed the saga. Alright then, it all starts with Termina Temple if you want to complete the Cold Thunder Saga. Alright then, let's move on to the next requirement. Now, another requirement of the King's Echo class is that you have to be rank 10 in the good faction reputation. Now, probably like the fastest way out there is that, you slash join Poison Force, you talk to Alina during her alchemy, storyline, and you click on the quest, Loyalty Rewarded, Wound Salved. All you have to do is just kill 10 of the Burning Knights to get 1,000 rep good. Pair that up with like, obviously rep boosts and, rep boosting items, Awe Ascended, Cape of Awe, etc., etc. And you will have like basically, quick rep like that. So what you want to do here is just like, walk around the map and, kill the burning loyalist, and bam, all you have to do is just do that 10 times, and bam, 1,000+ rep right then and there. Also, make sure that you have your quest pinner on, so you don't have to like walk all the way back to Alina. Make sure you have quest pinner on, and yeah, that's pretty much fast way to get to rank 10 good. All right, let's move on to the next requirement. All right then. So the other reputation requirement is that you need rank 10 Sword Haven. Now then, the fastest way to grind rank 10 Sword Haven is that you have to slash join Ultra Altion. Make sure that you complete the Sword Haven story. You talk to Lady Celestia, click on Ultra Quest, and click on defeat Ultra Chaos Lord Altion. Right here, I recommend using Chaos Slayer because now, thanks to its buffs, it can now do, its stats increase by 13%, and it now does extra damage towards Chaos monsters. Also, make sure that you have any Chaos, fighting items like Corruptors unlocked, or if you're endgame, you should have access to these 75%, Chaos weapons. But yeah, let's get started, show you guys how it's done with the class now. As you can see, damage, Chaos King. Damage is going well. Safeguard. That's okay. And bam. Just like that. Very quick. You could just, Ultra Quest. And it will give you 3,000 rep for Sword Haven. You could turn it in. And it's also, repeatable as well. So if you want to solo it, I just highly recommend using Chaos Slayer. I mean, now, if you go to other servers like, let's say, Arctic, Galanoth, there's definitely going to be a full lobby. Also, this is also a pretty, good place to, to get your Relics of Chaos. So you could spin on the Wheel of Chance for your Nullgap farming. And also, this is, the place to, grind your Armor of All pieces, since you do need to kill Ultra Altion for that as well. So it's basically like, 3 birds, 1 stone. Or yeah. All right, then. Let's move on to the next requirement. All right, people. So for the last requirement that was listed in the design notes, it is going to be the Alden's armor. So you want to slash join Bachlan Sanctum, talk to Richard, and then you'll see right here, Alden's Liberation Armor, level 70 requirement. It gives a 20%, all boosts and whatnot. Here are the requirements, 100K, 20, 100K vouchers. You can see the vouchers right there. 80 enthralling gem shards, 60 ornaments, 100 Throne Keeper's rune, and Champion Lanara's armor, Valen's knightly armor, and 20 King's Altion's armor fragment. I'll get into each and every one of them, starting with the Throne Keeper's rune. So you want to accept this quest right here, walk all the way down to the Throne Keeper, which is the boss of this map, and you want to, here's the quest, one for members and one for non-members. The non-member quest, gives you 1, and the legend one gives you 2. So you just want to defeat this boss. He's an undead tag, so definitely you want to, slide with your blinding light variant and whatnot, and just go crazy. He is resistant to magic attacks, so that's pretty much it. Just go with like, a decent soloing class. And yeah. As you can see here, it stacks all the way to 10. So basically, do this, complete the quest, like max stack the quest 10 times, and bam, you're at the 100 right then and there. So yeah, just turn it in. That's what I'm gonna do. Like this, showing you guys I'm doing some of the farming as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it to how to get the Throne Keeper's rune. Alright then, let's move on to the next requirement. Alright then, people, so for the next requirement to get the Aiden's Liberation Armor, you want to like, go to the shop, go to Bachlan Castle. This is where you're going to see Valen's knightly armor. As you see, you need 100K, you need 100K vouchers, you need 60 Bachlan ornament, and you need Monster's Blood to really get it. Now, the Bachlan ornament, you need 60, Alden's need 60. So in total, you need 120, Bachlan ornaments. Now for the quest line, there is the member version, non-member version. And you just complete this quest. Here's the results. You get these at random. And what you do here is that you walk towards the map. Walk, 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 walk. Okay, go up. And then you're gonna see these twisted arms. That's how you get the twisted arms right here. Definitely want to go to this map where you see the basically broken door. And then you kill these faceless ritualists, which will give you the Wraith of Aster. They drop at high quantities, so you don't have to worry. And then you basically, here's the boss, the Headless Knight, to get the Golden Anju. So basically undead tag right here. So like I said, put on your Blinding Light variant and then go crazy. And Chrono Shadow Slayer is still good, even after Ravens got reworked. Hey, nice. That's basically it. Now for the max stack, the Twisted Arms stack all the way to 250. The Wraith of Aster stacks all the way to 125. And the Golden Anju, stacks to 5 as well. So you can get I think a max stack is what? 4 or 5 max stacks. Which, with this quest right here, you could definitely, get the random, throughout this, you can get, double digits. It's just that hopefully you got that really good RNG. Alright then, that's pretty much it for the Bachlan ornaments. Now, let's go over the next requirement for the Valen's armor. Now, how to get Monster's Blood for Valen's armor is that you want to slash join Ebon dungeon, go all the way down until you see, Death Rix. The boss right here, he is a human tag, so make sure you have, your human fighting weapons. Right here, shouldn't really be that bad. With a full lobby, it goes down in seconds. And, yeah. It may take some time, but yeah, he definitely drops the monster blood needed to merge the Valen's armor. So now you know how to grind Valen's knightly armor. Now let's move on to Lanaria's armor. Alright, to grind, Lanara's armor, you have to slash join Bachlan Grove, click on the shop, and you'll see her armor right there. Now, you need 100k, vouchers, 8 of them. You need 80 gem shards and, Victorious' golden scale. Now, for the gem shards, Alden's liberation armor also requires 80, so in total, you need 160 enthralling gem shards. People highly recommend that, you start grinding this first and the other stuff because oof. So yeah, for your quest, there's a member and non-member version. What you do here is you basically just kill the undead monsters, like the undead guard that they drop the undead flag. The Wraith Scream drops the Wraith Scream, and then the Elder Necromancers drop the Necromancer's coin. I'll just, show you guys, motivation purposes. Also, make sure that you also have a Blinding Light of Destiny variant or stuff that does extra damage to, undead monsters as well. But definitely, Elder Necromancer is the one to be. So yeah, make sure you kill the other two, whatnot. And bam, Necromancer's coin. Now, how it stacks to Undead Flag could stack all the way to 45, Wraith Scream could stack all the way to 30, and Necromancer's coin could stack all the way to 5. So yeah, that's how you can get the 160 enthralling gem shards. Now let's move on to the other piece for Lanara's armor. So for the final piece of Lanara's armor, you need to get Victorious's golden scale. Now how to get that, you have to slash join Dark Plane, walk all the way down until you see Victorious. It's a dragon monster, so definitely have your weapons that do bonus damage against dragons, and also whip out Dragon Slayer General. And yeah, How can I? There we go. Definitely whip out that Dragon Slayer General. General. It's always, fun to use this class. Whatnot. Definitely nice. There you go. What's this? Just, beat down on Victorious until, she drops her golden scale. And that's pretty much it to, grind champion Lenara's armor. Now let's move on to the next requirement. Whew. Alright, so for the last requirement to get this, Alden's Liberation armor, you do need 20 of the King Altion's armor fragment. You have to slash join, Altion fight, the Doomblade will say, battle Altion again, and here he is. He's a human monster, so definitely have weapons, armors that do extra damage towards humans. And yeah, do that. And keep beating on him until, he drops, 20 of his armor fragment. And yeah, that's pretty much been it for the, the full breakdown plus, prep guide to the King's Echo class. Now, how do you guys feel about King's Echo? I mean, I don't really like the name King's Echo. Nah, I'm not rocking with it. It should have been called like Royal King or at least Monarch or something like that. How do you guys feel about the class so far? Comment section right down below. If there's anything I missed about this grind, comment section right there. And yeah, hi guys, out.